What separates a billionaire from bankruptcy? Sometimes it isn't intelligence, talent, or even hard work. It's luck, and its shadow twin, risk. Two people can make the same choices, yet one ends up on top while the other loses everything. In this chapter, we'll explore why fortune and misfortune play such a powerful role in money, and how understanding that can change the way we judge success, failure, and our own financial journey. The twin forces that shape every outcome. Let's begin with a story about Bill Gates, a name we all know. He's celebrated as one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time, the co-founder of Microsoft, and one of the richest men on the planet. But his story starts with a detail most people overlook. He attended one of the only high schools in the world at the time that had a computer. In 1968, Lakeside School in Seattle invested in a time-sharing computer terminal, thanks to a fundraising effort led by the school's Mothers Club. Gates, then just 13 years old, suddenly had unlimited access to one of the most advanced machines of its day. It was a one-in-a-million opportunity, and he made the most of it. To put this in perspective, in 1968, there were roughly 303 million high school-age students in the world. Only about 300 attended Lakeside, and only those few had the rare chance to learn programming before the rest of the world even knew computers existed. Bill Gates was one of them. Looking back, Gates himself admitted, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. His brilliance and work ethic were undeniable, but without that early stroke of luck, access to a computer at just the right time, his story may have looked very different. But here's the other side of the coin. Gates's close friend, Kent Evans, was every bit as talented. He was Gates's intellectual equal, a computer prodigy, and a partner in their youthful schemes. Gates once said, "We would have gone to college together. We would have started Microsoft together." But Kent Evans never got the chance. He died in a mountaineering accident before graduating high school. The odds of dying in such an accident as a teenager were about 1 in a million. Yet that's what happened to Kent. While Gates experienced a 1 in a million stroke of luck, Evans suffered a 1 in a million tragedy. Two young men, both brilliant, both driven, yet their lives unfolded in completely opposite directions because of circumstances beyond their control. This is the reality of money, success, and life itself. Luck and risk are inseparable siblings. They are forces that shape every outcome, often more than effort, intelligence, or planning ever could. We love to believe that success is a clean story of talent rewarded, and that failure is the consequence of poor decisions. But the truth is messier. Sometimes good decisions are wiped out by bad luck, and sometimes reckless decisions are bailed out by good fortune. The world is too complex for outcomes to be dictated entirely by our actions. There are always variables we can't see, can't measure, and can't control. Robert Shiller, Nobel Prize-winning economist, once said that the one thing he wishes we could understand better is the exact role of luck in successful outcomes. We all know luck matters, but because it's hard to quantify and impolite to attribute someone's fortune to chance, we often ignore it. If I told you that out of 1 billion investors, at least 10 would become billionaires purely through luck, you'd probably nod in agreement. But if I pointed at one of those billionaires and said, "He's not skilled, just lucky," it would sound dismissive, even insulting. That's the paradox. Luck is obvious in the abstract but invisible in the personal. The same goes for risk. When someone fails, we're quick to chalk it up to poor choices, laziness, or incompetence. Yet in reality, many failures are the mirror image of luck. They're just what happens when random chance tips against you. A sound business can still collapse in a sudden recession. A promising career can be derailed by a single health crisis. And sometimes, no matter how well you prepare, the world throws you into the wrong place at the wrong time. This is why judging success and failure purely by outcomes is dangerous. Bill Gates and Kent Evans remind us that the difference between triumph and tragedy is often nothing more than which side of luck and risk you happen to fall on. And if that's true, then humility becomes essential. Instead of saying, "She succeeded because she's a genius," or "he failed because he's a fool," we should learn to say, there's more to the story. Luck and risk had their say too. Nothing in money is ever as good or as bad as it seems. The real test isn't whether you can eliminate luck and risk. You can't. It's whether you respect them enough to plan your life and finances in a way that leaves room for both. That's the mindset shift this chapter is all about. The invisible forces shaping our lives imagine two people, starting life in almost identical circumstances. Similar education, comparable ambition, roughly the same opportunities. A decade later, one is thriving, the other struggling. How could this happen? Certainly, skill and effort matter, but they are only part of the story. Behind almost every outcome are two forces we often overlook: luck and risk. They shape our lives in subtle, powerful ways, and learning to recognize them can change how we think, act, and make decisions. Luck is one of the most misunderstood aspects of life. We tend to dismiss it as random chance or coincidence, but it is far more than that. Luck is the accumulation of small, unpredictable events that can dramatically influence outcomes. A chance conversation, a mentor met at just the right moment, the city you are born in, even the era in which you grow up. All of these are forms of luck. Some events we label as good, some as bad, yet luck itself is neutral. It simply happens, and it interacts with the choices we make to shape our lives in ways we often fail to recognize. At the same time, risk is everywhere. Every choice we make carries it, whether obvious or subtle. Changing careers, starting a business, investing money, or even deciding where to live all involve some degree of uncertainty. Risk is not just about danger. It is about outcomes that differ from what we hope. A seemingly safe choice may fail due to unforeseen circumstances, while a risky choice may succeed beyond expectations. Understanding risk is not about avoiding it entirely, but learning to navigate it thoughtfully. Consider Bill Gates, whose story illustrates this interplay perfectly. Talent and hard work were essential, but so were circumstances beyond his control. He attended a high school with access to computers, grew up in a time when personal computing was emerging, and met mentors who guided him. Each of these factors, outside his personal effort, contributed to his eventual success. Remove any one of them, and the trajectory of his life might have been very different. Luck and risk worked alongside skill to produce an outcome that was impossible to predict. Humans, however, are naturally biased. We overestimate our role in success and underestimate the role of chance. Nassim Taleb calls this survivorship bias. We celebrate the brilliance of those who succeed, but rarely consider the countless others who tried just as hard and failed. This bias can make us believe that the world is a straightforward meritocracy, when in fact life is far more complex. Recognizing this reality does not diminish our efforts. It simply provides a more honest understanding of how outcomes unfold. Probability is the tool that helps us think clearly about uncertainty. It allows us to measure the likelihood of outcomes rather than assuming absolute control. Instead of saying, I will succeed or I will fail, we can think in terms of possibilities. There is a 70% chance this will work, a 30% chance it will not. That shift in mindset transforms decision-making. Investors, for instance, cannot predict the market perfectly, but they can structure portfolios to balance risk and reward. Some investments are steady and low risk, others volatile with high potential payoff. Understanding the odds allows them to take calculated risks rather than blind gambles. Preparation and strategy amplify the effects of chance. Small, consistent actions, learning new skills, exploring opportunities, building relationships may seem inconsequential individually, but over time, they compound. Each step creates a fertile ground for luck to flourish. When unexpected events occur, those who are prepared can seize them. This is sometimes called the accumulation of advantage, a series of deliberate small actions that increase the likelihood of success when opportunity arises. Balancing caution and boldness is crucial. Over-planning or trying to control every detail can make us miss opportunities. Too much recklessness can lead to disaster. The key is distinguishing between what can be influenced and what cannot, focusing effort where it matters most, and accepting that some outcomes are inherently unpredictable. In practice, this mindset translates into action. Diversify your efforts, prepare for worst-case scenarios, experiment in small ways, learn from setbacks, and remain alert for opportunities. Life is a blend of preparation and serendipity. Those who master both do more than survive randomness. They thrive within it. Understanding luck and risk gives us perspective, helping us navigate uncertainty, maximize opportunity, and safeguard against unnecessary failure. While we cannot control every outcome, we can control how we respond. In that response lies the true measure of our agency, wisdom, and resilience. Stories that reveal how we handle money. Money decisions often look strange until we step into the world of the person making them. Consider the millions of people who buy lottery tickets every week. From the outside, it may seem foolish, spending small amounts repeatedly on a highly unlikely payoff. But step into their shoes and it begins to make sense. For some, the lottery represents hope, a dream of escape, a rare thrill that breaks the routine. For others, it is a social activity, a way to connect, or even a ritual learned from family habits. The choice may seem irrational on paper, but it fulfills emotional and psychological needs. Contrast that with someone working a physically grueling job in a sweatshop. Long hours, minimal pay, constant pressure. To the casual observer, the worker may seem trapped, making poor financial choices. But the decisions made, saving a few dollars here, prioritizing essentials there, are acts of survival. Each choice reflects immediate realities, shaped by constraints and experience. The patterns of spending, saving, and risk are perfectly rational within that context. Personal stories reveal the diversity of financial reasoning. One friend may refuse to invest in stocks because they grew up during a recession and watched their parents' savings evaporate. Another may buy high-risk investments because they witnessed a neighbor's early success story or because their culture celebrates boldness and entrepreneurship. Each story reflects exposure, history, and learned priorities. No one is operating outside reason. They are operating inside a logic built from lived experience. Even small habits can tell big stories. Someone who hoards cash in a jar might be reacting to memories of scarcity, a family lesson passed down from generation to generation. Someone else who meticulously tracks every dollar in an app may have learned discipline from a parent who emphasized accountability. The underlying principle is the same. Financial behavior is a map of past experiences. Understanding the why behind the action turns apparent irrationality into insight. Consider spending choices during times of crisis. People who experience hyperinflation or economic collapse often carry behaviors decades later, stockpiling goods, avoiding debt, or prioritizing liquid assets. Others who grew up in periods of abundance may take on debt freely, invest boldly, or treat spending as a form of expression. Both sets of behaviors are neither right nor wrong. They are adaptive responses to past conditions, deeply rooted in perception and memory. Even in everyday life, these stories show up repeatedly. A colleague who refuses to eat out or buy new clothes may have been raised in a household where saving was survival. Another who spends freely on experiences may have grown up in a family where opportunity was abundant and risk was rewarded. One person's discipline is another's deprivation. One person's risk is another's folly. Each reflects the unique circumstances and stories that shape them. Through personal stories, we also see the subtle influence of chance. A single fortunate connection, an unexpected inheritance, or a timely job opportunity can transform someone's financial path. Conversely, a sudden job loss, illness, or economic downturn can create long-lasting caution or fear. Observing these patterns helps us understand that behavior is rarely arbitrary. It is narrative-driven, a response to circumstance, opportunity, and emotion. The takeaway is clear. When we judge financial behavior without context, we miss the story behind it. Lottery tickets, sweatshop savings, bold investments, frugal rituals, all make sense to the people making them. These choices are rooted in experience, culture, and personal history. Recognizing this allows us to approach our own financial habits with curiosity and compassion, and to see mistakes not as moral failings, but as natural outcomes of a life shaped by circumstance. Ultimately, the stories we tell about money and the stories that shape us reveal that no one is crazy. Each choice, no matter how peculiar it may seem, has a reason grounded in lived experience. By listening, observing, and learning from these stories, we gain perspective not just on others, but on ourselves. Money is not simply numbers or transactions. It is deeply human, reflective of who we are, where we come from, and the world we navigate every day. Why money feels new and mistakes are normal. Even after exploring personal experiences, stories, and lessons, money often feels unfamiliar, as if it's a language we haven't fully learned. That feeling is not a sign of failure or incompetence. Money changes constantly. Inflation shifts its value. Technology alters how we earn, spend, and invest. And social norms evolve over time. What felt secure or sufficient a generation ago can feel foreign today. In this sense, everyone is learning as they go. No one has perfect instincts, and mistakes are not only natural, they are inevitable. Mistakes happen because money is intertwined with emotion, identity, and context. Fear, hope, pride, and desire all influence decisions, often more than logic. We may spend impulsively, save too little, take risks that seem reckless, or hesitate when opportunity appears. From the outside, these behaviors may look irrational. But when you step into someone's experience, the reasoning behind every choice becomes clear. Decisions are rarely random. They reflect personal history, upbringing, social influences, and lived circumstances. Every mistake has context and logic behind it. Perspective is the key to understanding money. Recognizing that everyone's financial habits are shaped by unique experiences allows us to view both our own and others' choices with empathy. Spending habits, saving routines, risk-taking, frugality, and even indulgence all make sense when seen through the lens of experience. The lottery ticket buyer, the cautious investor, the person hoarding cash or avoiding credit, all are responding to lessons learned, fears internalized, and patterns ingrained over time. Context turns apparent irrationality into insight. This awareness also changes how we approach our own money. Accepting that mistakes are inevitable allows us to experiment, reflect, and adjust without shame. Reflection becomes a tool for learning, not a source of guilt. By examining past decisions, we extract lessons rather than regret, building confidence for future choices. Financial growth then becomes less about perfection and more about awareness, adaptability, and intentional action. Each decision, whether correct or flawed, becomes an opportunity to learn. Money feels new partly because the world around it is always changing. The ways we earn, spend, invest, and define wealth evolve faster than we often realize. New financial products, platforms, and methods of transacting can make even basic decisions seem unfamiliar. What worked for our parents or grandparents may no longer apply today. Recognizing this keeps us humble, curious, and open to learning, reminding us that even experts were once beginners navigating unfamiliar territory. Another reason mistakes are normal is that humans are wired to learn from trial and error. Financial decisions are not simple. They involve risk, uncertainty, and judgment calls. Even small errors can provide clarity, teach discipline, and shape long-term habits. Avoiding mistakes entirely is impossible, but using them as feedback allows us to refine our strategies, build confidence, and cultivate better financial instincts over time. Understanding these dynamics brings freedom. When we stop judging ourselves or others, we stop being trapped by the illusion of a universal right way to handle money. We can view money as a tool, a reflection of personal history, and a set of decisions shaped by context rather than morality. Each choice becomes meaningful, each habit informative, and each perceived mistake a lesson in strategy, priorities, and behavior. Realizing that no one is crazy with money is liberating. It frees us from shame, comparison, and unnecessary self-criticism. Every habit, whether cautious, bold, or unconventional, has a reason grounded in experience. This awareness allows us to approach our financial decisions intentionally, learning from the past, adapting to the present, and making choices aligned with both our values and circumstances. Money, when seen through this lens, is no longer a source of judgment or fear. It is a tool, a language, and a reflection of life itself. As we close our exploration of luck and risk, one thing becomes clear. Life is shaped by forces beyond our control, yet how we respond to them defines our journey. Preparation, resilience, and thoughtful decision-making allow us to navigate uncertainty, harness opportunity, and protect ourselves from unnecessary setbacks. We cannot predict every outcome, but we can position ourselves to thrive when chance intervenes. Yet even with skill, awareness, and strategy, there is a deeper truth waiting to be explored. No amount of preparation or careful planning can fully satisfy the restless human desire for more. We are wired to compare, to strive, and to wonder whether what we have is ever truly enough. This leads us into the next chapter, where we examine the subtle but powerful forces that make contentment so elusive, and why the feeling of never enough shapes so much of the way we spend, save, and live.